The stone tablets had existed for 3 billion years. They floated in the empty space between galaxies, protected by energy fields that no civilization had ever been able to break. The architects, a species so old that even their memory had become legend, had placed these warnings across the universe before they vanished forever. Every advanced civilization eventually found one. Every civilization read the same message carved deep into the ancient stone. When the third planet of the yellow star produces life that walks on two legs and dreams of the stars, run. Do not fight them. Do not enslave them. Do not contact them. Hide your worlds. Silence your signals. Pray they never find you. The Empire discovered their tablet 12,000 years before humans learned to make fire. Their scholars studied it carefully. Their priests debated its meaning for centuries. Their military leaders laughed at the very idea. What could possibly be so dangerous about a species from such a small, unremarkable world? The controlled 40 star systems. They had conquered species across the galaxy. They had weapons that could crack planets in half. The warning was obviously meant for lesser civilizations, not for an empire as mighty as theirs. They placed the tablet in a museum and forgot about it. The collective found their tablet while expanding into a new arm of the galaxy. Their hive mind processed the warning instantly, sharing it among trillions of connected beings. For a moment, there was consideration. Then there was dismissal. They had assimilated over 200 species into their collective consciousness. They had absorbed the knowledge and strength of countless worlds. No single species had ever resisted them for more than a standard cycle. The warning was clearly outdated, left by a paranoid race that feared shadows. They archived the warning and continued their expansion toward the yellow star. The Dominion of Shadows found their tablet in the ruins of a dead world. Their eternal rulers, beings of pure energy who had transcended physical form millions of years ago, studied the ancient writing with mild curiosity. They had watched galaxies form and die. They had seen empires rise and fall like waves upon a shore. They considered themselves beyond the concerns of physical beings. What threat could any material creature pose to those who existed as living thought itself? The Dominion recorded the warning in their infinite archives and gave it no further thought. 12 more civilizations found the tablets over the following. Some took them seriously for a time, establishing observation posts around the yellow star, watching the blue planet with careful sensors. They saw primitive creatures learning to use tools. They saw tribes forming and fighting. They saw no threat, only potential resources or future subjects. Eventually, even the cautious ones looked away. There were wars to fight, resources to gather, territories to claim. The warnings faded into forgotten history. Then humanity reached the stars. At first, the galaxy barely noticed. A few primitive probes, chemical rockets carrying simple messages into the void. The advanced civilizations who detected these signals found them amusing. Such basic technology, such naive attempts at contact. Some researchers proposed responding, perhaps guiding this young species toward proper development. Others suggested claiming their world before a rival power did. But Earth seemed so far from the important regions of the galaxy that no one bothered to act quickly. That was their first mistake. Within 2 centuries of their first, humans had developed faster than light travel. The scientists who detected the first human jump drive were confused. Their own species had taken 4,000 years to develop similar technology. They sent a preliminary report to the Imperial Council, suggesting that the humans might be worth monitoring more closely. The report was filed and forgotten. The Empire was busy with a border dispute against the collective. Within 3 centuries, humans had colonized 17 worlds. Their population had expanded beyond anything the predictive models suggested was possible. They built stations and habitats in places no one else wanted. They mined asteroids that other species considered too difficult to reach. They adapted to environments that should have killed them. And still, the great powers of the galaxy paid little attention. Humanity was growing quickly, yes, but they were still insignificant compared to civilizations that counted their worlds in the thousands. The collective made first contact with humanity during a routine expansion operation. A human colony ship had arrived in a system they had marked for assimilation. Standard protocol was simple: subdue the population, integrate their consciousness into the collective, absorb their knowledge and capabilities. They had done this countless times before. They expected this encounter to last perhaps 3 standard days. It lasted 18 years. The humans refused to be assimilated. Not only did they resist the mental integration techniques that had worked on every other species, but they actively fought back. They learned to disrupt communications. They developed weapons specifically designed to target hive mind vulnerabilities. They adapted faster than they could respond. By the time the collective finally retreated from the contested system, they had lost more drones than in any campaign in their recorded history. They finally pulled the ancient warning from their archives and read it again with new understanding. But by then, it was too late to hide. News of the defeat spread across the galaxy. For the first time, the great powers looked at humanity with real attention. Some saw opportunity. If these humans could defeat perhaps they could be used as weapons against rivals. Others saw threat. If these humans could defeat they might eventually threaten everyone. The Empire chose to act first. They would not wait for humanity to grow stronger. They would crush this emerging threat before it became unmanageable. The armada that entered human space was the largest military force the Empire had ever assembled. 3,000 warships, each capable of reducing a planet to molten slag. Weapons that manipulated the fundamental forces of reality. Soldiers enhanced by millions of years of genetic engineering. The Imperial admirals expected total victory within 60 standard days. They planned to exterminate the human species completely, erasing any trace of their existence from the galaxy. The war lasted 47 years. The Empire did not survive it. The humans did not fight the way other species fought. They did not meet the fleets in honorable combat. They struck from shadows, from hidden bases, from ships so small they barely registered on sensors. They used weapons that they had never imagined, designs that seemed to violate the basic principles of physics. They took technology and improved it within months. They turned captured ships against their former masters. They recruited other species that had conquered and oppressed, promising them freedom in exchange for assistance. Most terrifying of all, the humans kept coming. They killed millions of them, then tens of millions. They destroyed human worlds, burning colonies to ash. And still the humans came. They seemed to grow angrier with each defeat, more determined with each loss. They did not surrender when their fleets were destroyed. They did not negotiate when their planets fell. They simply rebuilt, adapted, and attacked again with greater fury than before. The final battle lasted 3 hours. The humans did not use their captured fleets. They sent a single message to the Imperial Palace, offering the leadership one chance to surrender. When the Emperor refused, the humans activated a device they had been building in secret for 20 years. The device used principles that no species had ever discovered before, manipulating the fabric of space itself. The sun aged 1 billion years in a single instant, expanding into a red giant that consumed the inner planets of the system. The Empire ended that day, but the war did not. The Dominion of Shadows had watched the conflict with growing concern. These beings of pure energy had believed themselves beyond physical threats. They had existed for so long that they had forgotten fear. But the humans had proven capable of destroying even the mightiest physical civilizations. The Dominion decided to eliminate humanity before they developed the capability to threaten energy-based life forms. They were too late. Human scientists had already begun studying the nature of consciousness and energy during the war. They had captured Dominion observation probes and reverse-engineered their technology. By the time the Dominion attacked, humanity had developed weapons that could disrupt coherent energy patterns. The eternal rulers of the Dominion, beings who had existed since the early universe, discovered that they could die. Many of them did. The war against the Dominion lasted only 12 years, but it fundamentally changed the galaxy. Species that had hidden in fear emerged from their hiding places. Civilizations that had been enslaved for countless generations found themselves suddenly free. And at the center of this transformation stood humanity, a species that had risen from primitive hunter-gatherers to galactic power in the span of a cosmic. The surviving civilizations finally understood what the architects had been warning them about. It was not that humans were stronger or smarter or more technologically advanced. It was something far more dangerous. Humans never stopped. They never accepted defeat. They adapted to every challenge, survived every attempt to destroy them, and emerged stronger from every conflict. Other species would eventually give up, accept their limits, find their place in the cosmic order. Humans simply refused. Representatives from 300 surviving civilizations gathered to discuss how to respond to humanity. Some proposed surrender, offering tribute and submission in exchange for survival. Others proposed alliance, attempting to bind humanity with treaties and mutual obligations. A few proposed one final desperate attack, using every remaining weapon to destroy humanity before they grew even more powerful. None of these plans would work, and deep down, everyone in that gathering knew it. In the end, they did the only thing they could do. They asked humanity what they wanted. The human ambassador who addressed that gathering was a young woman named Sarah. She was the granddaughter of refugees who had fled the first attack, the daughter of soldiers who had fought in both wars. She spoke simply and directly, without threats or demands. Humanity wanted peace, she said. They wanted to explore, to build, to create. They wanted to share knowledge and culture with other species. They wanted to protect those who could not protect themselves. But she added, humanity would never forget the lessons they had learned. They would never again allow themselves to be vulnerable. They would never stop preparing for the next threat, the next war, the next attempt to destroy them. The galaxy had tried to exterminate humanity twice. It would not be allowed to try again. The stone tablets still floated in the space between galaxies, their ancient warnings still carved into immortal stone. Some of the surviving civilizations made pilgrimages to them now, reading the words of the architects with understanding that came far too late. A few scholars devoted their lives to studying the tablets, trying to learn more about the ancient race that had somehow predicted humanity's rise. What had the architects known? What had they seen that allowed them to issue such precise warnings billions of years in advance? No one ever found answers to those questions, but one scholar discovered something interesting in the final analysis of the ancient stone. The material of the tablets, the energy signatures of their protective fields, the linguistic patterns of the carved warning, they all contained traces that matched nothing else in the known universe. Nothing, that is, except for certain genetic markers found in every human being. The architects, it seemed, had not predicted humanity's rise. They had known about it because, in some impossible way that all understanding of time and causality, the architects and humanity were connected. Perhaps the architects had been humanity's distant ancestors, traveling backward through time to warn the universe about their own descendants. Perhaps they had been humanity's distant descendants, sending warnings to their own past. Perhaps the connection was something stranger still, something that no civilization would ever fully understand. The truth remained a mystery, one of countless mysteries that humanity carried with them as they spread across the galaxy, building a new civilization from the ashes of the old. The ancient warnings had predicted humans. No one had listened. And now, for better or worse, humanity had inherited the stars.